Welcome back to the Elise Tzurkov podcast. Today, I am so excited. I am welcoming Dr. Leslie Yaffa onto the podcast, and we are going to be talking about checking off the boxes. So, as women, checking off the boxes in life, doing all the things, and then feeling, hmm. So, welcome, Leslie. How are you today?
Good. How are you? Welcome. And
I'm
hello,
so good.
everybody.
Yeah, thanks for being here. Let's just start by introducing a little bit about you, what you do, and I know you do a lot, so just jump in.
I do a lot. So I think my main job is being the BSW coordinator at Algoma University. I just took on that job in December. In addition to all the other stuff I do, I also do a lot of teaching. So I'm a faculty member there as well, and a faculty member at other universities across North America. And I do my private practice once a week. I've been with the Vaughan Relationship Center, which is in actually Vaughan, yeah, Vaughan Relationships, why it's called Vaughan Relationship Center, since 2018. So I've been with the practice for 8 years, and I do couples, individuals, and complex families. So that sums me up in about 5 seconds.
I love that. I was like, couples therapist. Let's just go
Couples
there.
therapist, couples relationship therapist, we say.
Couples and relationships therapist. Okay. So you and I actually met. Let's talk about that. You came onto a call with me because you were interested in learning a little bit more about the program and who we service. And like, you were also like, hey, women need women. And then you and I just kind of went off topic
We did,
completely.
we
Which
did.
totally happens when you put two talkers together in a room.
Yeah,
And we started talking about a little bit, probably I shared a little bit of my story too about how I did all the things in life that I was kind of told to do. And you're like, oh my God, I see this all the time. And like you were saying, a lot of the women that you work with come to you because they kind of need permission to leave their lives as is to go to that next level. And I said, that's a big part of our program. What we do at FFWE is really shifting the identity of women. And by say we don't shift it, like identity is already shifting in this stage of life. And that does coincide with perimenopause and menopause.
for sure.
But talk to me a little bit about what you see. I mean, you'd probably see me sitting on your couch and being like, all right, I did all the things I was told to do. So let's go into that a little bit about what does it mean to check off the boxes?
Okay. So what did you do that you knew you had to do?
Yeah.
I'll redirect
Well, I
it back
wouldn't
at
say I
you.
had to do, but I really well, first of all, one thing that I was kind of told to do was marry rich. That would make my life a lot easier, right? But things that I wanted to do because I think that was just ingrained in me was like I want to get married, I want to get a house, I want to have kids, and actually remember. I don't think I've shared this with you, but I remember when I was working at my very first job, which was in corporate fitness and wellness, and I was working with my colleagues who were actually part of my wedding. Like they were really good friends of mine, they still
Right.
are, and we all got engaged at the same time. And I remember when I got engaged, it was like, I did it. Like, I'm done. Like, there's so much satisfaction in the fact that I was like, big milestone conquered. Like, I was like, I'm going to get engaged. I'm going to marry this man. This is how much he's making. We're going to have a family. And like, that's it.
And did you get fulfilled by that expectation? And are you fulfilled today by that expectation?
Oh my God. We're just jumping right into this, aren't we,
Are we
Leslie?
are. We totally are. Totally are. Let's go at it. Let's go at it.
Just go right at it. I
Yeah.
am not sweating, by the way. Was I fulfilled? So no, I was not fulfilled. I remember when I was very pregnant with my daughter, my very first, and I was getting a manicure with my mom. So I was like 9 months, I was about to pop. And someone at the salon said to me, are you going to go back to work? And I said, yeah, I'm taking a year mat leave because that's what we have here in Toronto,
Amazing.
Canada. And my mom looked at me and she's like, you are? And I was like, yeah. And she's like, you're not going to stay home? Now, not many women that I knew at the time were going to stay home because we were all
What
already,
was that?
yeah,
How
we
long
were all
ago
like
was that?
dual income. We were like, we're living in Toronto. Like, it's not really easy to afford to just live off one income. But that was the very first time I was like, oh shit, am I doing this wrong? Because I wanted to work. But I did go back to work and I felt really guilty about being at work and not being home. And then after my second, I ended up going part-time. And then after my third, I had got into a management position
Hmm.
and was like, I really like this work thing. And I really felt like there was something missing in my life, if I'm being completely honest.
Was work one of those check boxes that you were told to do in life?
such a good question. At the time, I was working because where I was working worked for my family. I had flexibility, I had lifestyle management, like I had that work-life balance, but I wasn't really doing something that I truly wanted to do.
Yeah.
In fact, something that I wanted to do, I ended up not doing because I got pregnant with my daughter. So I would say, like, in terms of work, um, I didn't go after what I thought I wanted at the time because I was like, I can't do that and have a family at the same time.
Because I noticed that you didn't put that as your check boxes, and I'm wondering if your spouse or your partner thought of the same thing. You had to do what you had to do because to have a flexible life. So
Yeah.
their check boxes are very different than women's.
Oh,
We're kind
absolutely.
of sold this thing where, get a home and find a partner, maybe start a career, maybe not. And so 25 years later, we start wondering, particularly in menopause and perimenopause, is this it, why did I just stick to these check boxes?
Yeah, and I'll say, like, I actually don't feel like I had a career, to be honest, until I started my business. Before that, I just
Ah,
had many jobs. So I wouldn't even classify myself as a woman that had a career. I'd say as I was a woman that had many jobs, wearing many hats just to make some money so that I could be home with my kids. Yeah.
wow. And I wonder if your husband had the same thing, if he thought the same thing.
I don't know what he thought. I mean, he definitely was the breadwinner, and I was doing all the things so that he could be the breadwinner and he could do his thing, and that was very much the roles that we kind of went into up until about 5 years ago when my business started, and we completely flipped roles. Like, that was a big mind fuck in itself. But um talking about the check boxes, it was very much like, yeah, this is what you do. Like, go me. I did it. Have a family. I raised a family. I have a house. I have a mortgage. I have a marriage. Like, I did it. And now
Did you
what?
feel fulfilled? But did you feel fulfilled
Oh my God. This is
by
such a,
that?
I just shared with Leslie before we started recording that I just came fresh off therapy. My therapist. And that was one of the things we were actually talking about, which was fulfillment versus satisfaction. So it's so funny that you bring that up because I didn't know what I didn't know. So I thought I was fulfilled. I thought I was satisfied, but I wasn't. I think there was a really big part of me that was, I went through university and I know so much and I'm not using it. And I felt untapped, if that makes sense. I don't know if that's fulfillment or just like, I just felt like there was more that I had inside me that I could share with the world.
Amazing. And are you fulfilled now?
I'm so
As you,
fucking fulfilled now. I love what I do.
yeah.
But, and I shared this with my therapist this morning, and I'm going to be totally transparent because I'm sure that there's a lot of listeners out there that can resonate with this. I struggle. I totally struggle with being pulled in the mom direction versus the business CEO direction. And it's really hard for me to balance both and be good at both. So when I'm being pulled at home, I feel like my business really struggles. And when I'm being pulled at in business, I feel like I'm dropping the balls with my kids and with my home.
Wow. So it's a balance. So I will get back to balance. So let's talk about milestones.
Yeah.
Why do we put these milestones, pressures or expectations on people, do you think? And there's obviously cultural norms and other things that play into that. But
Yeah.
why do we have these milestones for women and different culture? I mean, there's a cultural piece to it, I think, as well.
Yeah. Yeah. Um, that's a really good question. I mean, I think that every generation, if we talk about like, I know you had said like a lot of your demographic is Jewish women, I'm Jewish. And I think like in our culture, we we had to overcome so much in our history, right, in Jewish history. And like my grandparents, came right from Poland, came out of the war, and they just like their culture was survive. You just have to survive. Like, it wasn't about
Mm-hmm.
anything else but just pure survival. And so when they raised their children, aka my parents, it was like, you do what you're told and you raise a family and you do all these things. You definitely check the boxes and you don't have that many
And you
options,
definitely better be fulfilled through that process.
and you better be
I'm
happy
also
about it.
Jewish. I'm
Yeah.
also Jewish, and I come from a mother who was a Holocaust survivor. So
Yeah.
there's a
So
whole
you get
different kind
that.
of
Yeah.
expectation, right?
Yeah,
But you
100%.
but there was no idea. Oh, you went to school. Okay, if you went to school, you went to appease. You didn't. You went to school to find somebody. I mean, that was what I was constantly told. So we are
Mm,
given messages generationally. right?
Yeah, so I feel like when I grew up, I had a mouth on me for sure, and I remember my grandfather saying to me, like, "You will marry rich," and I was like, "Oh, no, 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 no. I will marry for love, and I don't need a man to support me," and that was, like, the dumbest thing that, like, I could have said to my grandfather at the time because he's like, "No, no, that's not how it's supposed to be. You should be, at home and just look pretty and all that kind of stuff." But that never, I mean, my parents didn't instill that in me whatsoever. That was not something that was in my nuclear family. It was like get an education and, you know, I wouldn't say like check the boxes, but probably yes at the same time because like me and my brothers, we all like I'd say made it up. We paired up pretty young in life. Like I met my husband when I was 19.
Wow.
Uh, yeah, right. Like I was still in high school actually when I met him. We dated for a really long time. So it was just like the next step, the next step, the next step. There was never part of me that was like, what do I want for my life? How do I want to raise my
But
kids?
but what happens if you said I'm going to go on a 6-year trip to build houses in Costa Rica? What would have been the response from your parents?
Don't be stupid.
Exactly.
I did wanna
Now
do
if
I
you're and now
actually at
if
one point, I wanted to go to Spain. I wanted to go to Spain for a year and learn Spanish,
huh.
and it was like,
And what
"Go,
happens
go,
if
go,
you're
go."
I wonder if your brother would have said the same thing. I want to go to Costa Rica and build houses. What response would he have gotten?
Yeah, I mean, we can dig I'm gonna share here also oh my god, I feel like I'm being so vulnerable here, but I've shared this on other podcasts before. When I started building my business, it was so organic for me because I so loved it, and I started building this big business, and I felt like I did it by accident and I didn't feel
Mhm.
like I deserved it. And so when I started in my mentorship right now, I'm in a 7-figure business mentorship. And my first retreat, I'm actually going on my second one in a couple weeks. I stood in front of the room and I was like, I don't feel like I belong here. Like I don't feel like I deserve to do this. And someone looked me dead in the eye and she's like, "Oh, I understand. You think you got here by accident, didn't you?" And I said, "Well, yeah, because in my family, I wasn't really the smart one." And that's my narrative. I don't think if you interviewed my parents, they'd be like, "Oh no, she was very smart." But I certainly, school was harder for me. I had to work twice as hard as everybody else in my family. Um, I was like the dancer. I was like the entertainer. I just like, being the breadwinner or making money was not something that was ingrained in me. And so I never really thought that was possible. And so when I started making money and I started supporting my family, I was like, shit, I did this by accident. I don't deserve to be here. That was my narrative in my head until someone looked me in the eye and said, "You absolutely deserve to be here. Stand into your power. This is who you are. And you're so good at it and you can get better at it." Right. And
Why do you think you internalize that?
yeah, I just think that's what the narrative that I told myself was like,
Or that is the boxes that you weren't I guess you didn't internalize, well, I can do this and I'm okay doing this and I deserve all the flowers
yeah,
that
I
nobody
mean, not
gets.
many women at the time are breadwinners, right? So, like, no, don't do that. And I'll tell you, my husband fucking loves it that I'm the breadwinner. It wasn't even like a, threatening thing or, oh God, like I feel like not like a man because my woman is making, no, he was like, "You go fucking make money now." Absolutely. Like, I support that. But it just didn't feel, yeah, it just didn't feel like something that I was kind of it wasn't a box that I would have ever figured I would ever check off. It was like that box that was shaded out as you're not capable of this, so don't even bother.
So how does it feel going towards the anti check boxes now?
Yeah.
Because I want women to know that it's okay to go to the
Oh my
anti check
god.
boxes,
I
right?
I mean, I step into my power. You gotta just watch
Oh
out. That's
God.
the problem is I get a taste of it and now I'm just like a fucking loose cannon. I'm like, "What else can't I do?" Yeah. I feel
Right,
pretty
right.
empowered by it and I stand I mean, I'm 46 and I love this age and stage that I'm in because I'm so unapologetic. I mean, that is our mission statement at FFWE is to help women thrive unapologetically from the inside out. And I feel like when I ask my team, "Hey, what word would you use to describe me?" They always say unapologetic. Like I want to show up. I don't feel like I was ever really truly myself until most recently. I mean, and that's
Mm.
awful when you think about it. I had to wait 46 years to really be myself and feel like myself as the woman I am, as the business owner I am, as the mom I am, as the human I am. But that's how it
Yeah.
is. And I'm sure a
But
lot of our women also feel like that.
my trajectory was very different. So I never married. I've had relationships, but and I don't have children. And so I was that anti checkbox. But that also came with a price, right? That's also came with the pushback from, why don't you do this? And you should be finding a partner. Isn't that your goal in life? You should buy a home. Not that I could buy a home by myself, because that was never an issue. That was an issue. And why don't you have children? You're not complete unless you have children. So I got different messages and different pushback.
Yeah.
And so how do women start creating this anti-checkbox? Because I
Yeah, I
know
love
a
that.
lot of people that are sitting on my couch are saying, oh my God, who am I? And how did I get here?
Yeah.
And
Well,
so
I wanna
how do
talk
we
about
start
that.
to help that? Yeah.
Yeah, I wanna talk about that because I know you said, like, women sit on my couch and they're just like, "I did all the things I was supposed to do, and I'm so unsatisfied, and now I need permission to either leave my husband, leave my job, change my life. What do I do?"
And why do you think they need permission?
Oh, it's such a great question. Why do we women need permission? I mean,
Permission.
listen, I talk to women every single day about our program. It is absolutely an investment. And most women will say to me they want to check with their husbands. Totally get it. And then I ask the question, is it for permission or respect? About 50% of women will tell me it's for permission.
Oh, so it's not can. So women go in with can I as opposed to
Can I
I
do
am.
this amazing program that guarantees me to be a better human, more comfortable in my body, more healthy and more available to service every other aspect of my life? Yeah, that's what they're asking for, is this permission. And I guess that's a really good question, is if I wanted to make a change in my life, my career, my marriage, my environment, my home, my anything, why
Breaking
do
out
we
of the
need
cultural
permission?
norms. Why do we need permission?
Yeah,
And
and
I think
I
part
think
of it is
especially a lot.
indoctrinated, right?
Yeah, and
Part of
especially
it's
a
a
lot like
little
in our
indoctrinated.
inner circle, it's like, well, no one else does that. Like, we don't do that. Right. And even you look at Canadians in general, and I say this, like, we have a lot of Americans in our program, and I have a lot of
Oh, you
American
do?
colleagues. And yeah, oh
Oh,
yeah, yeah, yeah.
I didn't
Oh,
know.
yeah,
Okay,
yeah,
that's cool.
yeah. And, so Americans tend to, go off to college and then, like, not come back home, right? They go somewhere for college and they stay out. Whereas Canadians always end up, not always, but generally speaking, we end up right back where we started, which is right at home. So, like, for Canadians to move, like, I don't have a lot of friends I grew up with who have now moved and gone to a different country or a different area of Canada. It's just not as common here, but, like, why not?
Well,
Right?
and that's right. But I did that when I was 26 years old, when I was completing my master's degree. And I'll never forget my mother saying to me, "Why are you going there? What do you need to do that
Right.
for?" Right? And so that didn't stop me. And I think my father realized, oh my gosh, she's going to go anywhere, anyways. So let me help her prepare for this. Right?
Yeah.
I think again, there's a narrative that's created, an indoctrination almost that we're given. We're given this package, and we wrap it up when we have those kids and pay those mortgages and maybe start a career and maybe complete an education. But bottom line is, we're told basically to be a trad wife or a traditional wife,
Yeah.
and people who break out of that narrative feel alienated. I think there's an illusion of fulfillment with these check boxes,
Yeah. This
and it's
illusion
fake,
of,
right?
like, yeah, this illusion of the check boxes. If you don't check them, then you're an anomaly. You're a black sheep. You are, someone that people talk about. I've shared this before on my podcast where, like, I've always wanted tattoos, like, since I was 19.
Mm.
And so, like, now obviously I've got a lot of tattoos on my body, and it's not surprising to anyone in my family because they're like, "Oh, that's her. That's what she does. Like, she's right." But I say, like, "Oh my God, if my brother got a tattoo, it would be like, oh my God, like, don't." So I've kind of fallen into this, like, my own box of, this is now what's expected, or, like, now we understand, right? But, like, growing up, oh no, you don't do that, you don't do this, you don't do that, like, good girls don't do that. I mean, I've talked about this
Good.
when we talked about HRT. If you haven't heard the talk with Esther Blum on HRT, you should go back and listen to that podcast. But we talked about masturbation and how girls are taught to not touch themselves at all. And so girls are growing up with, like, I don't know what I like sexually, I don't know how to pleasure myself. And I'm like, that's not great, because what do we teach men? What do we teach boys? That it's
Oh no,
normal,
they're warrior. They're warriors when they do it.
right?
So it goes back to gender roles and gender expectations. What are the gender roles and some of the stuff that you were fed when you were younger? And I
Oh
think
my
because that
God.
contributes to the narrative and those check boxes, right? And then how we see ourselves today to get out of those check boxes and create your own anti check boxes.
Yeah. This is such a web right here. I think that for me, the box was definitely, be a good wife, be a
Mm,
good support system for sure, be a good mom, be available for your kids, raise your kids, be there after school, which I did and I loved it. I don't regret a day I spent with my kids or like, not
I
I don't
do.
regret not working in the capacity that I work now then. Um, you know, but I would have loved it if I had someone say to me, "It's okay to want more. It's okay to, uh, you know, ha- have a career. Like, what career do you want?" Because for me, it wasn't even like I didn't even think of what career could I have. It was like, what job can I get that's going to give me flexibility, that's going to give me benefits, so I can go on mat leave and have babies. That's really what
And
it
I
was.
th- and again, I don't think men think of it that way.
No, I
Be
mean,
more fulfilled. How come we don't want to be fulfilled? That's what
yeah,
we do.
yeah. Well, and I mean, that's what's coming now to me. Like, this is what I see. I'd say 80% of the time, women will say to me when I say, "Why is now the right time for you to invest in yourself, do this program, work with us?" And they're like, "It's my time now. For the last 50 years, I've dedicated my life to my family, to my husband, and my kids are grown and they're at school, and I'm ready for me." And I'm like, I just think to my daughter, I don't want that for her. I don't want my daughter, she's 17. I don't want her living the next 30, 40 years dedicating her life to her family. I mean, I want her, if she chooses to have a family, to be there for her family. I don't, like I said, I didn't have kids to not be there with my kids, but I don't want her to self sacrifice that when she's 50,
Or sabotage, right? Or
yeah, so
sabotage
that when
based on
she's
what
50,
societal norms, right?
yeah, I want her to be able to always have her most authentic self come through.
So how do you train younger women to be authentic? How do we
Honestly,
make sure they define their own success, create personal milestones for themselves,
yeah.
that their decisions are not linear based on what society is dictating to them? And how do you get them to find meaning beyond what we've been prescribed? Because this is really what it is. We're prescribed. It's almost like medication. You're prescribed. This is how you be a good girl. This is how you be a good female. So
Oh my god.
how do we start
I wish
leaning
I
into
knew
that
you
narrative?
like 40 years ago. Um, Honestly, the only thing I can truly say is to model the behavior. That's it. I think in terms of making the generational changes, I remember when my daughter was 5 weeks old, it was her baby naming, and I was breastfeeding her, and someone took a picture of us, and I hated the way I looked. 5 weeks postpartum, I was so heavy. I'd never seen my body this big, and I deleted the picture right away. And as soon as I did that, I regretted it. And this wasn't like on a phone that you can get it back. It was like, one of those actual phones or cameras. And I
Right.
remember thinking that's the dumbest thing ever. Like, why am I doing that? And I remember saying to my husband, I will never shame my body again, ever.
Excellent. Excellent.
Because I don't want my daughter growing up thinking that her mom thinks she's fat. I thought and I'm looking at my 5-week-old baby. I'm like, she's going to hate her body at some point. I know it. All teenage girls do. But she doesn't have to see me model that behavior for myself. She
Exactly.
doesn't have to look at my body, then think my body's beautiful in any capacity, and then have me shame myself for it. And honestly, Leslie, I have never shamed my body since.
Excellent.
And
Excellent.
that is the
Excellent.
only thing I say, like, I know I've done that right, because I didn't want to hear all about bodies when I was growing up. And I don't want that for her. And so even now,
Why do you think there's that narrative constantly? I hear that all the time as well. Why do you think there is that narrative?
I just think,
Is it
yeah,
because we have to have these perfect young women to
yeah.
then have so then when they're looked at through the male gaze, then they're acceptable and then they can to check off one of the boxes of getting married.
I think so. I mean, I think of my grandparents, God bless them. I was so close with my grandparents. My grandfather passed in COVID, so I have a grandmother who's still alive right now. She's 98.
Wow,
Yeah,
wow.
and so growing up, family is so ingrained in me and so important to me. We were so close, and I love my grandparents. They were like second parents to me. And when I think back to my grandmother, and anyone who remembers her will say she was the most classiest of ladies, and she had her hair done. She had, her clothes looked great. She was always so put together. And that was a really hard role to fill at the time, right? And so it was like, that was the look good for your husband, you know? And even my grandfather, I remember saying, would take an extra cookie, he's like, you got to watch your figure. You got to watch your figure. Like, that's your
Oh,
job,
so,
right? You got to watch your figure. And meanwhile, I had a mouth on me and I wanted muscle. So I was like, fuck that. I'm going to be stronger and I don't need a man. And I, right. And he was like, that's weird.
and that's interesting.
And
That's right. Probably around the women's liberation, around the 70s, when all that started to start to peak, right?
yeah,
Right.
I mean, it was what it was. It wasn't, I don't think it was intentional. It was just what society had taught us. And, that's what it was. Like when we look at women today and how they show up for their partners, like, I mean, if you look at me, I'm 5'1", I'm 125 pounds. I'm working on my physique. I'm not doing it for my husband. He could give a
Good.
flying fuck, right?
Good. But what shifted that? What shifted that narrative for you, right? Because I think there's this thing called generational check boxes. So yeah, my mother
Mm,
was the same way. Hair was did, everything was great, makeup was always on, and always had to look acceptable or get approval from a man. That was a generational checkbox. So what has shifted? I know our generation started to shift it. I'm 10
yeah.
years, I'm 50, I'm 56. We've started to shift the narrative. What now do you think is the generational? What are we advocating for younger women?
Yeah. I actually had this conversation with my nieces not long ago because my nieces are 18, 19, all like late teens in university. And we had a conversation about marriage and talking about how, well, you can tell me, but they were like 50% are ending in divorce. And it was like, why do you think
60.
divorce is so high? And my
And
nieces were
why?
like, because we don't need men. Like we needed men, like women relied on men for career, for money, and now women don't. So we can get divorced if we don't want to be with our husbands, right? Whereas before it was like, oh no, no, no. You cannot be a divorced woman. You will be shunned. You won't be
So,
financially independent. Nobody will want to marry you, right? Like
so
it's just so
is there room now for alternative perspectives?
now it's
It,
just yeah.
it's way different, right?
And I could argue almost it's gone a little bit too far. Like I know, like, is it so good to have too many choices? Like, what about the young woman who wants to be a mom? Like I remember riding my
That's
bike as a
amazing.
little girl, pretending it was a station wagon and doing carpool. Like I really wanted to be a mom. I just was like, I want to be a mom. I want to be a mom. I want to be a mom. And then I was a mom, and I was like, fuck, this is hard.
This is
Oh
hard,
man, this
right?
isn't
But
what I
but
thought.
again, there's nothing wrong with women who want again the traditional life. There's nothing wrong with that. But I want them to also know that there's choice,
Yeah.
and I think that's the most important
Well,
piece,
and so
right?
let's get back to like, what choice do we have now? Let's talk about the
Right.
woman who's on your couch, who's sitting there. Tell me what she says to you.
I think mostly it's around this narrative is I raised my kids. I did what I had to do. I really don't like this guy that I'm living with. We're kind of living like brother and sister. There's no intimacy. There's no sex. And now what do I do? Now what do I do with my life? And if I step out on this, I then become this insecure person that I don't want to be. So there's this constant narrative of I'm insecure. There's a lot of infidelity in marriages where we're seeing a lot of infidelity because people don't want to have these conversations. So what they do is they go out on the marriage, and that kind of breaks up the marriage, right?
Yeah.
There's again different conversations about what happens if I have an open marriage. What happens if I just have a companionative marriage? So there's different ways of conceiving marriage and monogamy, also,
Mhm. Oh, let's talk
which
about
is
monogamy for a second. Do you believe that we're monogamous? Like we're meant to be monogamous?
I don't think the world is. I think the world is meant to be monogamish. Dan Savage always talks about monogamish.
Yeah, monogamish. I love that
Yeah,
term.
monogamish.
Yeah.
That we really can't. I think this is again another narrative or a checkbox. Stay married for the rest of your life and only sleep with one person.
Yeah. Yeah.
And then you just wake up one day and again, is that one of the check? I'm hearing that more and more. I met this guy when I was 20 years old, and this is the only man I've slept with. Now what?
Yeah.
Try something different. I'm hearing a lot of that dialogue, and women are feeling brave enough to say this, which is really great.
So what do you say to those women? What do they do? Is this when we
I
open the
don't.
marriage? Like, what do you do?
I don't know. I mean, I really check back on what's the intimacy like in their marriage to start with.
Mhm.
Is it a conversation that you have? Can you have that conversation with your husband? Is open marriage on the table? I've negotiated quite a few open marriages.
Yeah.
Again, it's almost like a new kind of contract. So it's a
Well,
different.
here's a narrative
Yeah.
too that I thought of, that I wanted to ask you about. And I was listening to a really good podcast. I forget her name. You probably know her, but anyways, she was talking about that the success of a relationship, be it marriage, partnership, however you want to look like, is not death do us part. And she was like, that is what most people miss, is that they stay in a relationship longer than the cycle of the relationship because the narrative is you must die together.
It's problematic. It's that's very scary to me. The
Yeah.
other phenomenon we're seeing is living apart. I think it's living apart together, or yeah, living apart together. Living apart
I
together.
think I asked you that when we were met the first time, and I said, "What is your give me the key to a successful marriage?" And you say, "Live separately."
Separately. And Dolly Parton said it for years. Her husband actually just died. But she said it for years. They lived in separate houses. And that's why always everybody asks her, what's the success to a great marriage is that we live apart.
Yeah,
People have their own life, and more couples are coming out and saying this,
yeah,
that they kind of live separate lives. They get together, have a great time. There's no friction, and they're faithful to each other. And
yeah.
so I think maybe that's where monogamy actually could work.
Because they have their own life, like really their own life. It's not like we make the dinner together, we watch we do it like no, they have their own lives. They date each other. They're intimate with each other. They go back to their respective houses. They're committed to each other. They're faithful to each other.
Correct.
There's a lot of love there, and so there's always that reconnection when they see each other,
Right.
right?
I think there's this myth that somebody's gonna cheat when they're not with you. I think I
Right.
think most couples I see, the cheating goes on in the same house.
Right.
So so again, I think women are making different choices, particularly at mid age, and when menopause comes in, and when the road is shorter, going forward than it is longer, and women start making choices that satisfy them.
Right. And fulfill them. So
Right.
what would
So it
you say to
goes
the
back
woman
to the
listening?
fulfillment, right?
What would you say to the woman listening who is like sitting on the couch or driving in her car right now, going on a walk and thinking, I don't think I'm fulfilled. I didn't realize that until I'm looking at the fact that yeah, she's right. I checked off all the boxes. I did all the things. And now what? Like, now what? What do I do? Now what? I don't.
So how do you understand fulfillment? Like, how do we understand fulfillment? How do you at least how do you understand fulfillment? What is fulfilling to you? Because I want to
Mm.
give practical examples and kind of reflect on our own lives.
Okay, so I had therapy today. I told you we talked about fulfillment and being like, because I said to her, I wish I could be normal. You
What is
love this,
normal though? But I
right?
hate that. I hate the
Yeah.
word normal though.
I know I hate it too, but I said and I don't use this word. I say common over normal, but I say sometimes I wish I could just be normal. So I feel like I have this inner competitiveness in me that always has to do something that is extreme or growth orientated or competitive. So like I remember when I ran a marathon, I was like, why am I doing it? Like, why can't I just be normal? Like, why can't I just go for a run and not make it like a marathon? Why can't I just go to the gym and not feel the need to be the strongest, biggest woman in the gym? Like, why do I feel the need to like up this? Why do I have to, you know, keep thinking of ways to grow my business, to service more women, to be helpful? Like, like where is this kind of need? And my therapist, as we were talking through this, was like, is this something that was ingrained in you that you have to do this in order to be fulfilled? Or are you missing something in your life that you feel like you need to
So that's what
fill
I
that?
would queer. That's what I would query you on. Ask yourself, and I would ask all the listeners: are you content?
Yeah.
Conventional life that you've kind of bought into. I think to some extent we all buy into some kind of conventional life. We can't have this crazy, I'm going traveling every 15 minutes and we can't do that. So we have some form of conventional life.
Yeah.
But are you fulfilled? Are you better yet, are you content? Do you feel content with your checklist?
Mm. God, I feel so put on the spot. Am I content? I think I'm getting there. I remember a few years ago really struggling with my social life and my therapist drawing out a circle diagram, like a pie chart. And she's like, you're growing your business, you have a family, I have a child with high needs. Like, you can't master every piece of the pie right now. Right. And what was
Mm-hmm.
really sacrificed to me was that social aspect. And I felt like I wasn't nurturing friendships, but I didn't I chose not to. I didn't have the bandwidth. I don't want to say time because I hate using that word. I don't have time. I'm too busy. I didn't have the bandwidth for it. I didn't want to reach out to friends. I didn't want to see friends. Now that my kids are a little bit older, my business is up and running. I have a beautiful team behind me supporting me. I'm getting those friendships back and I'm starting new friendships. And I feel like that is really sad. Like that's fulfilling me. So I feel more content now because what was missing from my life was like that social connection. And I have that now. But I do feel like
Why did you?
don't
Why do
know
you
if this
think? Why did you? I don't want to cut you off, but why do you think you didn't have that social network anymore? I think a lot of women do this. Again, that may be on the checklist. Is that, oh my god, I don't have any time or bandwidth to nurture those friendships, and I think those are
yeah,
the
so
one of the most important things you can do when you get to middle age.
yeah. I feel like I isolated myself more than anything. Like I did that to myself. I think when my son Owen was diagnosed with diabetes, I just
Mm.
really shut down a lot from the world and I was like no one understands me. No one's dealing with what I'm dealing with and I just really didn't care. I didn't want to let anybody in. I felt like no one really understood me. And even now like um I feel like a bit of a black sheep in my social circle, I'd say, where I'm like, yeah, a friend will say, "Hey, want to go grab a coffee in the middle of the day?" And I'm like, "Are you fucking kidding me? Like, I
You got
run
work.
big business.
At work.
Yeah, like
Exactly.
it's not that like I could, but I don't want to. I love working, right? It's like I'm so good. Can we not do this another time? And they're like, "Yeah, no problem." But for me, I'm like, they're gonna judge me, and so there's that. I put so much. This is such an inner narrative too. Um, but I also feel like for me personally, I just am so good at burning myself out that I couldn't handle it all. I need to go until I burn out and then it's like where did my friends go? I don't have any
Where does that
social support.
competitive spirit? Where does that competitive spirit come from? I think it was a lack of contentment that you're starting to move towards. So maybe the competition will die down a little bit. The competitive
I'd love
self will
that.
die down, and the contentment will come in. That doesn't mean you're complacent when you're content,
Right.
right?
Yeah.
Doesn't mean to be complacent.
Trust
Yeah,
me,
I love the
I would
competitive.
love to release a little bit of it because it's exhausting. It's
It is
exhausting.
exhausting. Exhausting. Why can't I be the best at everything?
Yeah.
And that
Yeah.
like you said, that's an inner narrative.
I have a Wonder Woman tattoo, and it is really for that reason. It is like I am deep down, I'm like Wonder Woman, and it's like I have this like superhero mindset where it's like I can do anything. Watch me, but you don't have to be good at everything because you can't be
And
good
you
at
don't have to
everything.
scream it, and you don't have to scream it. You can do it quietly. I think as you
Right?
get older, you can do it quietly, right? Just do
Yeah.
it, right?
Yeah.
So, what from your old checklist is meaningful to you, and what in the anti checklist that's coming up do you feel hopeful about?
Oh, that's such a good thing.
Because we all have, I mean, the checklist, and there's things that will always be meaningful to you, like relationships, like friendships,
Yeah.
right? So nobody wants to pan the old checklist. I just want women to evolve into a new checklist and feel okay with it.
Um, I would say in my new checklist is feeling seen and heard. That's really important to me. And being in environments where I feel
Okay.
seen and heard. And that
Okay.
that
Tell me what that
unfortunately
means for you. Tell me what that means for you. Because a lot of people say, I want to be seen. I want to be heard. I hear that a lot on the couch.
yeah.
I'm
You?
not
Oh
seen. I'm
god.
not here. Yeah, I'm not seen. I'm
Yeah.
not heard. I feel minimized. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
So
What does that mean? It means better communication with my partner for sure, learning how to use my voice in a way that is effective and not screaming like a child having a tantrum, right?
yeah, yeah,
And that
yeah.
comes down to like mental health support is like how I wish I knew this years and years and decades ago. Would have saved me a lot of like hardship, I think, in finding my own voice. But I just felt like I didn't have one. I felt like I was told a lot of times kind of like what to think and what to do, even though I was very much independent in that. It was
Mhm.
like, I'm going to do this. Is that okay? I'm thinking to do this. How do you feel about that?
So
Here's what
did
I'm
you need
thinking. What do you
validation?
think?
Did you need validation?
Oh yeah, absolutely. I remember when
I don't get
I
that from you
yeah.
now, though. I don't get that from you now.
need any validation now, Leslie. You know
Exactly. That's
that
amazing.
now.
Amazing. Amazing. I love it.
Yeah, and I go back to, first time I ever made an investment, $2,000 was so much fucking money for me at that time. And my husband thought it was crazy, didn't really agree with me, but my husband's always been supportive of anything that I've done. So he was like, all right. And I made that money back in 90 days, grew my business. Next investment was 7,500. He also thought I was crazy. I felt I had to justify it. I remember going away on my very first conference where I was like, what do you think? And we could do this, and I can make food so that when I go, you have stuff for the kids, and I can do this, and I'll get my parents to help, and I'll get carpools. And then, flash forward for today where I'm investing, $32,000 US a year in my business, as well as, traveling multiple times per year, saying, all right, my next trip is here and I'm going to book my tickets. And
And you're not looking for validation, right? You're not looking for validation at that point. That's amazing.
no,
So,
there's no more.
so
Out of
for women,
respect for my husband, like I'm not
of
going to be a
course,
dick about it, but yeah,
I don't want people to think, oh my God, I'm just gonna, you know, pull everybody over and do what I want. That's not what I mean.
right.
There's respectful reciprocity within a relationship, if you're in a relationship. But if you're stuck, move through identifying what truly matters to people. Why did it
Yeah.
matter? Why did it matter for you to start this business?
What a good question. Why did it matter for me to start? I didn't, it happened so organic for me. And I will
Did you
just
feel
say
stuck at the
that,
time? Did you feel stuck at the time or no?
did I feel what? Sorry?
Stuck.
Stuck. No, I felt like I'm in my power. I was like, I'm good
Okay,
at
good.
this. I have a problem. I know I have a solution that can help so many people. I just need to figure out a way to get it out there. And I was like, this person seems to know what they're doing. I'm going to go invest with them and learn how to do it. And I did it and it worked. I was like, I don't need to reinvent the wheel. I just need to find people who are doing it better than me, learn from me. I had so many amazing mentors. And it matters because I've always known that for me it wasn't enough to just do something. I had to make an impact. Even when I was working in corporate fitness and wellness, I used to say what I loved most about my job was that I was the dinner conversation. Like people would
Mm.
come
Uh,
home and talk about what Elise said today. And I thought, oh, that is so fulfilling to me that I'm changing people's lives in the home, not just in one person. And so for me to now have a voice on this podcast, on my platform, in my business with our clients, I take so much pride in building women up and changing the lives of women. There's so much I get out of it, not to mention running a business, using my brain, using creativity,
thinking outside
leadership.
thinking out societal boxes.
The, who knew I would be a badass leader if I just learned how to lead? Like, you
Right.
know, I love it. I really love it.
What would you say to women who want to kind of find their own path outside the boxes that we talked about today?
What would I say
But
to
yeah,
the woman?
particularly menopausal and
Yeah.
perimenopausal women, right?
Yeah.
Because I think that's where you start changing your mind about what life looks like for
Yeah,
you.
and we deal this a lot within our program in that identity shift. And I will say it feels very overwhelming to the woman who's lived under the wing of her husband to now finally step into her own light. And
Her own power.
so
Mm.
yeah, and I will say it's not necessarily like you have to step completely out of it and be all at once. Like, let's take small steps. I'd say the very first thing is fucking invest in yourself. What do you want for yourself? Or do you hate the way you look and feel? You can change that. Do you hate where you live? You can change that. Do you hate what you do? You can change that. I think a lot of women feel stuck in the choices that they made in the life that they've created. They don't even realize that they have the ownership to change that. They don't have to continue to please the world. They don't have to continue to put on this facade, this mask of, who they believe to be. And also, if you're and you would love this, but we have a lot of women whose husbands don't support the changes that they're making. They find
And
it
I think
hard.
exactly. And I think
Yeah.
that goes back to, I think we've talked about this, is that then feel like they're competition for their husband, or a husband feels competitive. Oh my
Yeah.
God, if she loses weight and she starts to look good, does that mean I have to start investing in myself as well? And I
Yeah.
think
And
that
I
brings
don't
up
want to,
another
and make it
narrative.
about them. Yeah.
That's right. And so, and what are you doing to the family? You're supposed to be, your obligations are this,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
And so, a lot of women don't have supportive husbands. or
Yeah.
spouses or partners, right?
Yeah. And I think
And
that's actually one of the questions I ask on calls is like, do you have are you a partner? Do you have a husband, whatever relationship? And are they supportive of what you want to do? Because if you don't, it makes it that much harder. And I've talked about this on podcasts. I talk about this in my community where women start to change and the people around them are not happy about it. They
right,
don't
because we
like
all
it.
have roles, right? And we do a lot of
Yeah.
this in family counseling is people have roles. Oh,
Yeah.
they're the ones that are constant crisis. They're the fixer. So we all put ourselves in these roles, and it's very hard to shift out of that box. So
Yeah.
not
And
only check
so
boxes, but boxes that we're put in our own family or our own direct life. And so to move outside of that makes us very frightening. A lot of women are very frightened to move outside of that.
yeah, like how do you deal with your changing and people around you don't like it? And I use this example a lot. A lot of women come into the program, they're drinking a lot of alcohol because they've been leaning on it for years and years
Mm,
as a coping mechanism. And
mm.
so they stop drinking as much, but then it becomes such an issue. And I know it had this with myself too. I used to be a really heavy drinker. I stopped drinking and I stopped getting invited out to things, right? Because people were like, well, she doesn't like to drink anymore. She's not fun or whatever it is. But a lot of women will say, I don't want to drink. And so my husband gets upset because I'm not drinking with him. And my friends give me a lot of pressure. And then sometimes I'm like, you might need new friends. Like you might have these friends
Or, or examine
because
why you're coping with alcohol. Why are you coping with situations with alcohol? Why can't we all go out and not drink?
right. Why do we have to go out and eat? Right. Like why can't but what I'm saying is a lot of times we make these friendships because we're co-coping together. And when you pull that out, you're like, oh, we actually don't have anything in common except for drinking. I didn't even realize that. Right. It's like when my
And
kids
that
were
talks to me a lot larger issue, like the mental health issue.
the
Are you self-medicating because
yeah,
you're anxious or you're
yeah,
depressed? So are
yeah.
you doing that to cope? And that's a socializing mechanism. A lot of people can't just socialize, go out and have fun.
Yeah,
They can't
100%.
do it.
Like, why
They
do we
can't do it.
no, they can't, and I remember talking to my friends about this because, I get a lot of judgment, obviously. Like, my friends will think, like, okay, if you go out for dinner with me, you're going to be like, oh, is Elise watching what I'm eating? I'll tell you right now, you want to take me out for dinner? Fucking take me out for dinner. I don't give a flying fuck what you eat. Okay. Like,
Exactly.
you do
Exactly.
you.
Enjoy. Enjoy. Enjoy.
Enjoy your food. But a lot of women, a lot of, my friends will be like, oh, I'm like, I don't really care. But I did have a conversation about alcohol because I was having a really strong conversation with a friend once. And I was like, I really think if you're asking me for advice, what I would do, you should cut off the alcohol. And she's like, you don't understand. My one kid was just diagnosed with ADHD. I have a really hard day. And I'm like, well, that is the dumbest fucking thing I've ever heard. I can say this to her because she's a friend of mine, but I'm like, I have a very high stress job. I have a high needs child. I don't drink bottles of wine at night. Like, you think that by drinking it's actually helping you, but it's harming you. So it's not actually a good coping mechanism. What else do you got? And she just looked at me and she's like, oh my God, you're right. You're right. I didn't actually think of that. And I'm like, that's what
But
society does too,
remember,
right?
remember, we're never taught to cope. I think it should be a course. I
Yes.
think it should be a course in grade 7. We're taught to cope with things.
Oh, there's
Instead, we
things we're
put
not taught. Yeah, we're not
no.
taught about finances, we're not taught about how to eat, and we're not taught
The
about how to
women
cope with ourselves.
particularly are not talking about finances. I hear women say, my man controls all the money," and I'm
Yeah.
like, wow. But we're not taught to cope, and that's really, really problematic. So what we do is we put things in our mouth: drink, smoke, eat. We constantly put things in our mouth to cope, or to socialize, or to lessen the anxiety. So coping is a big one, right? And so
Yeah.
so for people to say, I'm going to make this life changing, not check boxes, anti check boxes thing is amazing. And I want people to do it, but they have to learn to cope with their situation first.
Okay, so help us.
And
How do we cope? How like what where do you see women today in the anti-box, in the anti-check box? What are some really great ways to cope?
I think part of it is one, reestablish your friend group. I think you did a really good job, and I'm glad you identified that. Is reestablish your friend group. The second is probably is boundaries, and a lot of people have
Oh my God, I love that you said that.
is that people can't establish boundaries. Oh my God, they're not going to like me. Oh my God, I'm not going to be part of a group. Oh my God, if I don't drink, then they're going to think I'm weird. So there's establishing boundaries. I think those two, you just start there. Like you said, you have to start lessen the overwhelmedness and just start somewhere, right?
Can we
Have a
talk about
good friend
boundaries
group.
for a second?
Absolutely. I could do a whole show on boundaries.
I was gonna say, I feel like we gotta
We're
get
going
you
to knock
back
off.
on for just a talk on boundaries. If there's one thing that every therapist, healer, anyone has ever said to me personally is like, "You have no boundaries. None." I didn't even know that I had no boundaries until I understood what boundaries were. And
So how do
even
you understand? How
then,
do you understand them? How do you understand them?
um, making a promise to like doing something that is for me, that is for my better good and sticking to it. So something as simple as I don't stay out till past 10 p.m. So like I'll leave
Hmm,
early. Like that could be
hmm.
a boundary. And
That
people
is
are
a
going to be
boundary,
like,
yeah.
oh, why are you going to bed so early? And I'm like, because I'm up
And
at
you're such a
5 and
party
I
pooper. And you're
yeah, I
such a
used to
party
be like, "Why?
pooper.
We don't wanna get started till 7, and then we don't eat till 10," and I'm like, "That's fine, have fun," but, like, I'm out. That's an easy boundary for me to hold, but then a boundary of, um, work is always hard.
What's more difficult? Tell me, give me something specific. Because I want to delineate for the people that are
Okay,
listening
I
what
have
the
no
difference is.
boundaries when it comes to my kids. I have no boundaries when it comes to, um, anything personal, to be honest. Because if someone came to me and said, "I really need your help, can you do this?" I would be like, "Yeah, absolutely. Let's figure
But I
that
want I
out."
but I but I want you to be supportive. You're a business owner. You have to have boundaries. So you have to have some kind of boundaries. Like I want to make money. I have to pay my bills too. I'm
Yeah,
a business owner, right? So I can't help everybody for free.
right.
I get a similar because I'm a therapist. Everybody calls me and asks me, well, what would you
But
do?
then
What
but
would you do?
then I'll say, "But I have a free Facebook group and I've got freebies and I can help you and here's how we can do it." And if someone's like,
So there's your
"Can you just"
boundary.
right, have no bound yeah, that's a boundary there, but I mean more so like, okay, I had a boundary where I had like a hard stop at 3 PM,
Hmm.
because I'm working with a coach and he's like, "I need you to have a snack at 3 PM every day." And I was like, "No fucking way." And my coach looked at me and he's like, "You have no bound you don't even know what a boundary is." He's like the first person that really smacked it in my face. And he's like, you can stop at 3 and have a snack. And I was like, "No, I can't. I just that means I have to, like, change my schedule and tell people that I can't have a call at 3." And he's like,
And
"Okay." Yeah.
and right,
And
right,
yeah. Ask me how many times I break that boundary every week.
right. And I think part of finding your path to the anti checkbox is creating boundaries.
I really struggle with this, Leslie, I'm not gonna lie. Like, you tell
And I
me,
think
like
I think boundaries also lead to resentment.
yeah, yeah, that's a good one. That's really that you're right because I think that's the box in me that is like the pleaser, the mom, the be everything
Right.
to everyone, the fixer, the solutioner, I got a tool for that in my tool belt and I can fix anything. You just throw it at me.
Right. And
And
God forbid you have not you have boundaries, but then she's mean or she's she's so specific or she's so structured. So I think that's what we're afraid of, particularly as women, that backlash.
well, I mean, if I told you, hey, I'm hospitalized twice for burnout, that wouldn't be someone who has boundaries,
Right.
right?
Exactly. Right. Exactly.
And I
Exactly.
remember thinking like this isn't a healthy way to live.
It's not a healthy way to live. I think we get to live in our truth. And I really believe that. It sounds corny and cheesy, but we have to live in some kind of truth.
How do you find your truth as a woman who's 50 and deciding, "Hey, I want a little bit more for the rest of my life?"
So I think first, you know, find out what truly matters to you. As an independent thinker, outside of your family and your husband, perhaps, or your partner, what truly matters
Hmm.
outside of those external expectations.
Mhm.
Okay. Recognize those societal boxes and be okay to move outside those societal boxes to your own personal values and align yourself with those.
Don't you find it's also easier to do that when you find a tribe of women who also find those to be true? Like, just being around you, Leslie, I feel more confident in the woman that I am because knowing that, like, you grew up with a mom, right? Like, Holocaust survivor, lots of check boxes, you gotta do this. And you're like, your dad is like, she's not gonna do that anyway. So, and you're so happy. And I remember you telling me, like, I love my life and I'm content. And I'm like, fuck, if she can be content, I can be content, right? But like, you hang around women who are still checking the boxes and like secretly gossiping about, Karen who left her husband and,
Because they have nothing else. And
right.
they have a shallow, hollow kind of life, right?
Yeah.
I love my life because I have choices or I've created choices for myself. And that doesn't mean sometimes I don't envy people with kids because I don't have kids. But that doesn't mean I still accept the choices I made. But I think a
Yeah.
lot of women are discovering this age that they really never had choices. Hence the boxes.
Mhm.
right?
Well, and I think also like, if you choose to have children, like I had my daughter when I was 29. So like all of my 30s and, up to today, like I'm identified as a mom first. Mom of
And
kids.
that's a what. Can I tell you something? I don't want to underestimate the power of being a mother. It's so powerful.
And I'm not like that is like that's a separate container for me.
Yes.
But like, is that who I am? Right?
Ask your,
Like,
and I think women should ask themselves, is that who
right.
you
Like, is that
are?
who I am? Am I a mom? Am I Elise? Like, who is Elise? It's like if we were to meet at a party and I'd say, "Hi, I'm Elise." And you're like, "Hi, I'm Leslie." And I'm like, "Cool. Like, what do you do? Like, tell me about yourself." And you're like, "Well," and then you talk about your job or you talk about, "Well, my mom." Like that whatever you talk about first is like how you identify. When someone says
Mhm.
to me, "Tell me about yourself." I'm uh, like I don't know what to say because I'm like I don't want to say, "Well, I'm a mom," because I'm like that's not my identity.
No, but it's definitely part of your identity
Part
is
of
being a
it.
mother, right?
Yeah, but I feel like that is how I always identified. And a lot of our ladies identify as a mom, but then their kids are older and they're that mom roles change so much. Like I had so much joy out of like bathing my babies and taking them to the park and feeling needed and like carrying them on my hip and all the things. And now like my kids want nothing to do with me. I'm like, now what am I going to do all night?
Right. So do you think you lost your identity? And how easy, that's next point I want to make. How easy is it for you to create new boxes that are personal and reflect your unique kind of aspirations? How easy it for you to do that?
I think it's personally easier for me now because of what I do for a living. But if you were to ask me 6 years ago, I would be like, I don't know. I don't know how to do that. I don't know. I'd have to give myself, I guess, permission to like figure out what I want and how I like that and like what drives me? What wakes me up in the morning? What gets me excited? Like Monday mornings, I jump out of bed because I fucking love what I do.
Right, exactly.
Right? And I get to like make an impact on the world and I feel like that's great. And even like, watching my kids, like I remember at my son's bar mitzvah, um like watching him at the Torah, and I'm not a very emotional person. I got so overwhelmed with such joy of emotion in my mom hat of like, oh my God, like what a milestone. I got to watch my children. And even like now, sometimes I'll look at my kids and I'm like, I'm so fascinated by the humans that they've become and that I've contributed to this human. And I'm like, that has given me so much joy that it feels overwhelming at times to step into a different identity. Right.
Yep.
Like,
Yep. And it gives you the power. That's your foundation. And that's nothing, again, nothing wrong with being a mother. I think
yeah,
it's one of the most admirable jobs in the world. It is. And I think people should include that in their identity.
yeah,
However, in saying that, outside of those kids, what is that your identity?
yeah.
It's all
Well,
about timing. Go ahead. Go ahead.
if you were to ask me that now, I would say I help women live unapologetically, and that could be like anyone that I meet on the street, anyone that I work with. I'm very curious now when I talk to women. Is like, but who are you really? Kind of like how you are, right? You're like, but what do you really want to do? Like, what are you not telling me that you really
What
want
do
to
you,
do? Do you want to go
right,
travel? Do
exactly.
you want to go write a book? Do you want to change your
Right.
body? Like, go fucking do it.
Go do it. And really, it's all about timing.
Yeah,
A lot of women come to these ideas or finding a new path during menopause and perimenopause because
yeah,
life, again, this is midlife.
yeah,
Again, things have changed. Up to this point, they haven't had to change anything, but they're recognizing, oh my God, this is very personal. And it really is the right time, but I think menopause and perimenopause is a great time. Feel better, look better, be kind, be gentle on yourself. I think there's so many things that we don't do or don't give ourselves permission to do. And I don't understand why. I really don't.
Well, I always say that like our community of women are the no moo community. So like we're not a community of women that are going to like just stop
Where
wearing
moo
bras and wear moo all day. We're like, I want to wear the crop top and the bikini and I want to feel hot as hell and sexual. And I also want to be able to wipe my own butt when I'm 90, right? It's like I want to grow old and be able to be functional and mobile, but I also want to look really good. Okay, so I want to wrap things up here. I think I'd love to have you back because I feel like boundaries is such a really important topic. I feel like if I'm struggling at 46 setting boundaries, that a lot of listeners are as well. So we'll definitely get you back on. But what would you say what would you like that woman to hear right now? Pretend to not get her to sit on your couch. All right. We're talking to the woman who, like, is in her she's in perimenopause right now, maybe late 40s, early 50s, and her kids are getting older, or she's starting to maybe look at her partner or look in the mirror and think, huh, is this it for me? What would you say to
Exactly.
her?
I think number one, be gentle with yourself.
Mm.
Number one, be gentle with yourself. Be kind. Again, understand, identify what's important to you. Understand what those boxes are and how you can create new check boxes. Because it's okay to create new check boxes, particularly now. And
I love
I
that.
think it's simple, right? It's simple. Start
What
creating
a
new
good
check boxes.
workshop that is. You know what? I think we're going to do that in our community. Is a how do you create your own boxes? Let's create new boxes for ourselves.
Oh, that'd be
What
a
a great
great. I would
idea.
love to facilitate. You want to facilitate it? I'll facilitate
I
with you.
do want to facilitate that. You know me. I'm like, let's go fucking hard. I go all in.
And I can do
Yeah.
all. Yeah, I love doing interactive workshops, and so that would be marvelous if we can do that. Yeah,
Yeah,
because
let's do
maybe
that.
people are
I
that
think
stuck, right?
Yeah, and I think that for the person out there is like, go ahead and sit down and write a list of all the boxes that you've checked in your life so far. And then on another fresh page, like open up the box and think,
New ones.
yeah, what do I want to check now? Like, what are the anti boxes that I want to check?
And
What do
what
I
are
want to,
and you know what? And what are the barriers to get you there?
yeah. And you know what? Because I'm thinking already, oh my God, this and this. And like the barriers are all my mindset. Like I already know it. I'm like, the
Oh,
barriers are
it's
in my
total and mental health, and there's mental health pieces. There's narratives or financial perhaps concerns. So explore all those. But it'd be a great to put a workshop together.
I love that. All right. Tell us
Amazing.
how people can find you if they want to learn more about you, what you
Oh
do.
wow, wow. Okay, so can you do it
I'll drop
through?
all the links in the show notes for sure.
Will you? Okay, for sure. So Dr. Yaffa, Dr. and YAFFA on Instagram. I'm regular Leslie Yaffa on Facebook, and certainly you can find me at Vaughan Relationship Center in Vaughan, Ontario.
In Toronto, yeah, in Toronto, Ontario. Love that.
Yeah, love it.
Um, I love that. Yeah, and I'll drop all the show notes. And of course, if you are listening to this and you want to watch us, you can go ahead and check this out on YouTube as well. And I'll drop all the links below. Once again, Leslie, thank you so much for joining
Thank
me
you.
today. I would love to know how this episode resonates with you. So if you've listened right till the end, please go ahead, leave us a review, tag me on social. Let me know if you want to hear and have Leslie back on, and we will definitely get her back on. And until the next time.